We see Rachel running quickly through the woods, terrified, with her pursuers following closely behind her. As she runs without thinking, she gets surprised when she comes head to head with a walker. With no time to react, she grabs its head and jumps in the air. She slams the walker to the ground, falling on top of it. She then pulls out her knife and quickly stabs it in the head, making it stop growling. As she withdraws the blade, she hears footsteps in the distance coming closer. Rachel quickly hides behind one of the trees. As they begin to come even closer, she sees Kyle, Doug, and another taker. "Come on, Rachel! You're smarter than this! Come out wherever you are!" he demands. He notices Doug giving him a weird look at what he just said. "Shut up," he says. "Help me find her." "Why don't we just leave?" Doug asks. "What's one girl gonna do?" "One girl is all it takes to kill an entire group. No loose ends," he ordered. "But Xavier asked us to find where Peter and them took off to. Why don't we just head to where she came from?" he rebuttals. Rachel peeks out, seeing them argue with each other. "You don't want to die like the rest of them. We can protect you. Just give yourself up. I'll talk to Xavier. Put in a good word for you," Kyle shouted. She was beyond tired and breathed heavily, trying to catch her breath and calm herself so that they wouldn't hear her. "Come out now! Don't make this worse! You can't run and you can't hide!" Kyle shouted again. Rachel hyperventilated, thinking back to all the times she hid underneath her bed in fear of her father. She was terrified, hugging her doll Molly, as she heard the shouting outside her door, hearing him argue with her mother and Damien. She tried to block out those memories, but struggled as she thought back to how her mother was torn apart by the dead in front of her, how Philip shot himself in the head, leaving them to die at the hands of walkers. 2 hours earlier. At Nest, we see Benjamin, Carla, John, and Jeff all packing up and getting ready, with Benjamin setting up some C4. "Is that the last we have of it?" Carla asks. "It is," Benjamin stated. "We need to make it count," she says. By himself, John removes his glove, looking at his bite mark. Jeff pops out. "Hey, John." John drops the glove to the ground. "Jeff, you scared me. Shouldn't you be on the road?" he stated. "Sorry, John. I just wanted to talk to you about something." But he noticed John not picking up his glove and looking nervous. "Are you okay?" he asked. John had his hand behind his back, and Jeff noticed. Jeff bent down, picking up his glove for him. "You dropped this." John grabbed it quickly and turned his back, putting it back on his hand. As he struggled, Jeff noticed. "Oh my God, you're bit." John turned around. "You can't tell Carla or Benjamin," he ordered. "How did it happen?" Jeff asked. "Last night, when Xavier and them were running away, Hannah turned into a walker and that's how it happened," John told him. "Why don't you want Benjamin and Carla to find out?" "Because it'll distract them. You need to be focused for when Xavier comes," he stated. "Why didn't you cut it off?" Jeff asked back. John showed his prosthetic. "Because I would have no hands if I did that." "But you'd be alive. I'd be a burden. I wouldn't be able to shoot with 2 blades for hands," John told him back. "So, we're really gonna keep secrets from them," Jeff said. "This is the only option we have. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices for the group. Sometimes telling the group what they don't want to hear is a good idea. Sometimes secrets are better kept that way," John finishes. Elsewhere, Carla leaves and walks to Benjamin. "Brandon was a really good guy. I'm sorry," she says to him. Benjamin looks to his friend. "Brandon was there during some of the darkest parts of my life. Whenever I was feeling the worst about people, he would always show me the best. He reminded me there was good in all of us, even if it was the hardest thing in the world to find. He never let me stay mad at anything for long. He always had something to distract me from seeing the world how it really was. He never asked for anything in return. He never asked me for anything. Honestly, when we met, without the ragers and takers knowing. He wasn't afraid of me like everyone else. He was still the same old Brandon. The world changed, I changed, but he stayed the same. And even after I was trying to deal with all my demons, all by myself, he reminded me that I wasn't alone, that I had all of you, that I was part of a family. After everything he did for me, how did I repay him? By letting him die, he says, saddened. You did what you could. You're only one man. And we didn't help, Carlos stated. We should have done more to help you that night. John and I have always struggled with doing whatever it took. You were always there to get us out of any situation. But you're not the only one who feels that way. John and I feel like we're always failing you, she said back. But now, Brandon and Hannah are dead. No matter how hard I tried to save everyone, I couldn't. If Hannah didn't save me that night, I would have ended up as another corpse on that pile. But she saved me, and I was only able to save some of the people here. After so much killing, I've taken the lives of so many people, but I don't regret killing them. I'd do it all over again if I had to, he told her. Well, save some for me, because I'm not going anywhere, Carla stated. After their talk ends, Carla is then approached by John. Jeff left now. Remember the plan. You stick with Benjamin no matter what, offering his hand. I will, she told him. See you on the other side, she told him. I'm gonna hold you to that, Sergeant Mars, she said. You're the best soldier I ever had, Private Ramirez, he said proudly. And that goes for you, too, she said, hugging him. God, you and Benjamin are such hug haters, releasing him. We're gonna live today. All of us. This isn't the end, she stated. Present time. Meanwhile, Xavier and his group were riding in their vehicles. He gets on the walkie. All right, everyone. When we're inside, cut the chatter to a minimum. And remember, Talia and the kids must be secured first. Then we kill every last one of them, he ordered. You heard him, one of his men stated. We're coming by the gate. Weapons hot and ready now. And remember, the herd will be here in 30 minutes. Let's make this quick, Xavier stated. Benjamin aimed his rifle, looking in the scope, as John and Carla did the same. Here we go, Benjamin said. They were ready. They had to be. This was it. Xavier and them braced for impact as they drove the semi-truck through the fence of Nest, breaking it and badly damaging their own truck. Inside, several people exited their vehicles, aiming their guns. Xavier and his men stepped slowly out and looked around the neighborhood. It was completely deserted. What? Where is everyone? One person asked. Shut up, Xavier says. Richard, take 4 men and head to the back of the neighborhood, he commands. Richard goes, taking some men with him. Xavier whispers, Don't drop your guard. This is a trick. They're all here. I know it, he stated. We see them look at the first house as they approach it. They break down the door. They aim their guns and look around quickly and quietly. They look through the living room and open every door, every bedroom, the backyard. Xavier looks at a small grave in the backyard as some of his men go to him. The house was clear, sir. Check them all. We search until we find them, he commands, angry. As the soldiers look around Nest for the survivors, they go around serious fire damage from the night prior. As Xavier continues investigating, his walkie goes off. Xavier, come in. He picks it up. You better hope it's something good, or I swear to God. The man interrupts him. We found something, the man states, shocking Xavier. Minutes later, Xavier approaches his men who have surrounded a house. At least 20 soldiers were surrounding the house. Xavier angles his ear, hearing some noise inside. This is it, Xavier says, sure of himself. Richard, do the honors, he says, reloading his gun. Richard nods and kicks the door open as the door flies open, showing an army of walkers inside the house. A small item drops to the ground. The little piece of metal explodes into a blinding light. Everyone covers their eyes as the bright light hurts them all, making them collapse. As Richard tries to regain his eyesight, he looks and sees a figure coming towards him. The figure comes right to his face as he sees that it's a walker. The walker lunges on top of him, biting into his face. Richard screams in agony as the walker tears into him. More walkers begin to come from the house as the soldiers try to run. Xavier regains his eyesight and quickly opens fire. They gun down the walkers coming from the house. "Hold fast! We can beat them!" he shouted. "Be careful! They can come out of anywhere!" Xavier shouted as he saw one soldier next to him have his head blown off. Elsewhere, yards away, Benjamin reloaded his rifle, cursing, as he continued to fire from the forest into the neighborhood from the fences. Carla and John opened fire in the street, filled with armed soldiers, as they scattered. "Hide in the houses!" someone shouted. Xavier tells them to find cover. They look around to see no one around as more walkers begin to come through the fence as well. "We're trapped! They boxed us in!" Xavier orders his remaining men to take care of them and watch their backs. John then looks through his scope. While hanging in the tree through a harness, John pulls out a small device for Hannah. He said, pressing a button, as several houses quickly exploded in a massive ball of fire, killing everyone near them. Everyone inside was screaming, trying to get away, as Benjamin, Carla, and John all looked at their homes as they burned. Suddenly, John heard something and turned around, aiming his gun to see Jeff under him. "Jeff, I could have killed you," he told him. "There's no time for that. We got a herd coming on the way from the south," he told him. "How many?" John asked. "I don't know, 200 maybe? All this noise will bring more of them. Ben and Carla won't see it coming," he told him. Benjamin and Carla sneaked through a hole in the fence and climbed inside. "All right, Ben, let's go," she said as they quickly went into one of the non-damaged houses, revealing multiple fire extinguishers. "Okay, we need to put out these fires, kill anyone still here, and take care of the remaining walkers." "Piece of cake," she says, totally in denial. Back in the woods, a terrified Rachel tried to calm down and keep quiet. If she didn't, she would die, and then she'd never see Benjamin again. She checked the bullets in her gun as she notices some walkers coming from another area and hears Kyle and the Takers. Kyle looked at the dead walker Rachel killed earlier. He aimed his gun. "Come on out, Rachel! I know it's you! I recognize your beautiful face from anywhere. You don't want to do this. You're on the wrong side here, Rachel. If you give up, and I'll convince Xavier to let you live," he says, trying to manipulate her. Rachel quietly moves from another tree and notices a walker sitting right next to her. She slits its throat, stopping its growl, and pushes it away. She pulls it down and grabs it, holding it down as she hears them. She moves again, leaving it. Kyle and his men continue to look around. "I'm serious. You would be very valuable to our group. You're special. Everyone else there will have to die, but you'll get to live. Come on! Do you really want to throw your life away? All the years you have to live for these people? You're nothing like them," Kyle says as his men look around the forest. "Don't make us come get you! Be a good girl and come out!" he stated. Rachel slowly aimed her gun, making sure they didn't hear her. As they came closer, the walker came towards them. As Kyle plunged his knife, quickly killing the walker, Kyle and another man behind him aimed their guns, looking for Rachel. "We'll find you! There's no escape! Last chance!" Kyle said loudly. Rachel looks to see a big herd coming and waited with her gun, aiming it. Go to hell. Before firing it, hitting Kyle right in his leg. "Ah!" he shouted. "Get her!" He shouted to his men as the dead snarled at his loud mouth. Her plan worked. They were focused on them now. She did it, just like Benjamin. The men were firing at the dead, completely distracted, so Rachel fired her gun again, hitting a guy in the chest, killing him as the man dropped dead. The dead grabbed his body and began to devour him as Kyle tripped over one. "Doug, help me!" he shouted. Doug began to help him up as he fired his gun at Rachel. She ducked behind the tree and took off running yards away from them. "Forget her, they're coming!" Doug shouted. Back at the university, Sean was walking by himself when he heard barking. "Merle?" he whispered, scared. Sean ran to where he was hearing it from and ran into one of the classrooms. Sean was shocked to see Victor holding a blade to his own arm. "Victor, what are you doing?" he shouted. "I can't live like this anymore. There's no point," he shouted. "I have nothing left. I want to die. Zach, Chase, May, my mom, and now Rachel," he cried. "Rachel isn't dead," Sean cried out. "Listen, you don't want to do this," he said. "You don't know anything about me," he said. "That's true. And if you kill yourself, I never will. But I want to. And one thing I know is that you're hesitating. You didn't do it. You're still not doing it, which means that you're scared," he told him. "You still have so much to live for. You're a young guy. If you die, don't you think people would be upset? What would your father think?" he asked. My dad hates me. I was horrible to him. I never should have blamed him for everything that happened," he stated. "He doesn't hate you. He loves you. And will be destroyed if you do this." "Can you really do that to him too?" Sean asked. "Wouldn't it be easier to say you're sorry?" he asked. I guess I might," he said. "You're not the only one who's scared and lost a mother. I did too," Sean told him. "But doing this won't make the pain go away. You'll just add it to the rest of us who are still here." Victor lowered the knife. "I'm sorry." Sean slowly took the knife away from him. "It's gonna be okay," he told him. Outside the walls, John checked his shots. Only had 8 left. He turned and fired, killing another taker. Xavier ducked as his remaining takers took cover when one was bitten by a walker that came from behind. Using this, John ran to the vehicles. He got inside and started it as Xavier and them looked on. They tried to fire their guns when somebody shouted that they were out. Xavier checked his ammo, noticing that he was nearly out as well. Looking through a scope, Benjamin saw as he was leaving, so he went on his walkie. John, where are you going?" he asked. As John drove the truck in the opposite direction, he ignored the call, crying and coughing. He was getting weaker. He then stopped the truck, seeing the large horde of dead in front of him. 2 decades ago, I, Jonathan Andrew Mars, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. So help me God. Back in the present, John shouted as he used his prosthetic to hack up the dead. He then goes underneath the truck and severs the gas line with his blade, causing it to leak. John went on the walkie. Benjamin, Carla, there's a herd coming. I'm going to take it out, he told them over the walkie. Jeff and Carla stopped, using their extinguishers, as Benjamin was killing multiple walkers. They all heard it as Benjamin got on his walkie. John, hold on, I'm coming, he told them. There's no time. They'll be on you guys in mere minutes. Benjamin pressed the walkie, cursing at John. John, I'm coming! Wait for me! You hear me? He shouted. I was bitten, John confessed. Benjamin and Carla looked horrified at the shocking news. She dropped to her knees. Jeff went to her. I'm sorry. He didn't want me to tell you, he confessed. Benjamin continued to listen. It happened last night, during the attack. It was Hannah. She was the one who did it. But I'm not gonna go out by her. She was too good. I'm so proud of both of you. Fight on, you two. Keep Sean safe for me. Please. Goodbye. He finishes as Benjamin shouted for him, running, calling out for him. John pulled out a grenade as the walkers were mere feet from overwhelming him. As Benjamin was running, he heard a loud blast as he then sees a large smoke cloud rising in the distance. Benjamin dropped to his knees. Dad, he said, defeated. He then heard a shot fired in the same area. John? He said, excited. In the classroom, Sean sits with Victor as they play some games, and Yumi comes in. Sean, I'll watch him. Why don't you go get something to eat? She says. Okay, thanks, Ayumi, he says, leaving. Oh, and Ayumi? She turns around. What? Sean looks sad. I'm sorry about what I said. It wasn't your fault what happened. Can you forgive me? He asks. Of course, Sean, she says, smiling back. Sean smiles in gratitude. Thank you, as he leaves, taking off to go get some food. In the street, Carla and Jeff were pinned down by a few remaining takers. Carla tried to get an angle, but ducked from the gunfire as bullets flew over her head. She cursed at this and noticed in the distance a lot of walkers coming for them. Carla goes on her walkie. John, are you okay? Please answer me! She shouted, but she couldn't hear a thing. She couldn't reach John. Carla shouted again as she peeked and fired 3 rapid shots at them, missing them. Walkers! Jeff shouted at her. Carla pulled out her blade. I know! She shouted angrily, stabbing it in the head. In the forest, John was coughing violently as smoke and walkers filled the air. He aimed his gun, hitting another taker. As he walked, a shot was fired. He hid behind cover as Xavier and one more taker had him pinned. John tried to get a shot but couldn't. Xavier fired a few more shots, but his gun clicked empty. Xavier looked to the guy next to him. How much ammo do you have left? He asked. Only a few more shots, he told him. That's more than I have, he said as he grabbed his gun and kicked him away from cover. John fired, killing the man, as Xavier came from the other side of the tree, firing his shotgun into John's chest. Blood and body armor flew off of John as he dropped to the ground. Xavier looked at his victory and walked towards John. Killing one of your own. You never had a sense of honor. No wonder your family left you, John told him. Honor never kept anyone alive. Just look at you, all alone, sad, and about to die, he said back. I know I'm going to die, but I still won, he stated. How? Xavier asked. I didn't lose who I was. My friends and family will live. But you did. You're gonna die as wretched, cowardly nothing, and no one will remember you, John said, coughing blood. Xavier fired another shot directly into John's chest. As John stopped talking, his breathing began to slow down, and then he saw Benjamin, Carla, Sean, and Hannah. Everything was all white and quiet as he closed his eyes, letting out one last breath. Back with Rachel, she continued to run away and stopped trying to catch her breath. She looked like she was about to drop when she saw a walker to her left. Just then, she was shoved against a tree hard, dropping her gun. She was lifted up by her neck as she saw Kyle under her, bleeding and full of anger. She tried to break free, but she was too weak for him. She tried to kick him, but nothing worked. Rachel screamed, trying to breathe, crying out in pain. All you had to do was listen to me! I didn't want to do this, but you made me do this! He stated angrily. Rachel tried to claw at him, but she couldn't reach him. As she struggled with her arms, she felt something sharp, and using one of her arms, touched a sharp piece of wood out of a tree. She quickly reached back for it and pulled with all her might out of the tree and launched it right on Kyle, hitting him in the eye with it. Blood gushed out as Kyle screamed very loudly as the piece of wood that was jammed into his cornea. Rachel dropped to the ground and coughed violently as Kyle was lying and screaming on the ground with several walkers coming towards him. What did you do? I can't see! Help me! He shouted. Rachel crawled, picking up her gun back, and ducked from a walker as she saw the walkers surround and dogpile on Kyle as he screamed in agony. Rachel watched as he was torn apart and turned her back and began to walk away, holding her bruised neck. The walkers chased closely behind her. As Benjamin was running, killing walkers with his knife, he used his other hand, firing his gun, killing another taker. John! John, please! Please be okay! He begged. Benjamin looked, seeing another walker. I don't have time for this! He said, aiming his knife, when the walker came closer, revealing it was fresh, wearing armor, a dog tag, and had a missing hand. Benjamin froze, seeing it was John himself, the father he had for the last 2 years. Again, the father to him was coming for him. Benjamin snapped out of it, quickly stabbing him in the shoulder with his knife. Benjamin looked as John snarled at him face to face when suddenly he saw a shotgun pointed right at him. Benjamin ducked as Xavier fired his shotgun right at them. Benjamin and John were both hit in the chest, dropping to the ground. "Where's my family, you bastard?" Xavier shouted as he pumped his shotgun and fired again. But nothing happened. It was empty. Benjamin slowly tried to get up when Xavier used his shotgun as a blunt weapon. "Where's my family?" he shouted, hitting Benjamin against the face with it. Benjamin flipped over, grunting in pain as his face was bleeding as well as his side. "You killed my brother, took my family from me. It's time you pay the price," he said, swinging again, but Benjamin moved away and blocked the hit with a rock. Xavier dropped the shotgun to the ground, giving Benjamin time as he kicked both of Xavier's legs. Benjamin then moved fast, re-grabbing his knife from the ground, before slashing his hand, severing off a few of his fingers. Xavier screamed but charged and launched himself at Benjamin, tackling him to the ground as John started to come towards them. Xavier turned Benjamin around, putting him in a chokehold. "Come and get him!" Xavier shouted. Benjamin saw that John was coming right at him, about to bite him. But using all his remaining strength, Benjamin turned as John lunged forward and sank his teeth into Xavier's side. As he screamed, John tore the flesh from his side as Benjamin took his knife and slashed Xavier's face, cutting out one of his eyes and cutting through his nose. Xavier screamed, dropping to the ground as Benjamin went berserk, stabbing all over his body, his hands, his ears, his eyes, his face, and his neck, as he continued to stab Xavier in a crazed frenzy. Rachel appears from the street and sees John turn towards her. She was horrified to see her friend like that. "Goodbye, John," she said, aiming her gun before firing a bullet into his head, killing him. John's body fell to the ground as she looked over, seeing Benjamin continuing to scream and stab Xavier over and over and over again, despite being long dead. She calls out to him, but he keeps going, scaring her. "Ben!" she shouts, grabbing him from behind. Benjamin screamed and turned around fast, grabbed her by the arm. It was Rachel who looked at him. She gently placed her hand on his face as Benjamin looked in shock, seeing her. Rachel looked around. "Come on, we have to go," she stated. Benjamin groaned, trying to get up in pain. Rachel grabbed onto Benjamin and helped carry him. Rachel helped carry him as they made their way to the car as Benjamin was bleeding and limping from his wounds. Carla and Jeff looked around at the oncoming horde of walkers as they began to surround them. Carla fired her last 3 bullets before running out of ammo. She pulls her knife out when Jeff pulls her away. "Come on, we have to go!" he shouted at her. Carla looked frustrated and saw as things were looking completely hopeless. She aims her knife and charges at the walkers. She kills several of them as more approach her. They begin to grab her and nearly bite her as Jeff stabs a walker helping her. "Carla, I'm not dying here! I need to see my son!" he shouted. Carla looks around and screamed in frustration, not wanting the both of them to die for nothing, as they run with the herd coming closely towards them. As they try to run, some walkers begin to come in front of them. Carla and Jeff stop. "What do we do?" he screams. "Run!" she screamed as she jumped forward at the gathering in front of her. She screamed using her knife, clawing her way through the herd, covering herself in blood. "Carla! Carla!" Jeff shouted as she ignored him and continued to push forward, screaming. Suddenly, she was tackled to the ground. Carla was tackled, hitting the ground with Jeff standing on top of her. "Get down!" Someone shouted. Suddenly, loud gunfire was fired as 2 men were firing their assault rifles, killing the walkers around them. Jeff and Carla were buried in the walkers as all seemed lost. The loud gunfire goes, hitting the walker in front of Carla as the blood showers her. She wipes her mouth as a large middle-aged man grabs her and pulls her into the back of a truck. "I got you. You're okay. Manny, cover us!" he shouts. Another man, a Hispanic, fires his assault rifle into the herd, killing the walkers. "Bud, hurry up!" he shouts. "You too, Bud!" he shouts at Jeff. Jeff sees them. "What? Who are you?" he shouted. The large middle-aged man turned his back. "We'll talk later. Now get in the truck if you want to live." The man brings Carla in the truck. "Don't worry, dear. God sent us. He'll protect us. Manny, floor it! Hurry! The man floors the truck as Jeff gets into the back. The walkers try climbing in and grab him. As Jeff is pulled off the truck, the man grabs his arm, not letting go, as Jeff kicks the walker. The man pulls Jeff back into the truck just in time, saving him. As the driver accelerates the gas, they drive away from the dead. Jeff breathes out of breath and thanks them. Who are you? The name's Obadiah, but you can call me Bud, the large middle-aged man states, smiling. Many minutes later, the walkers were still chasing the young adults as Rachel looked completely exhausted. She had been shouldering Benjamin for miles and was ready to collapse in exhaustion. Fortunately for her, she saw their car, but also 4 walkers around it. Benjamin removed himself from her to take care of them and stabs one of them in the head as he collapsed to the ground. Rachel quickly stabs one of the walkers, but her knife gets stuck in its head with no way to pull it out. She pushes back the other walker and then gets an idea. She grabs it and slams it down, landing its head into the end point of her stuck knife, killing the walker. She loses her knife and notices more walkers coming. She looks, seeing Benjamin bash a walker's head into the road. He breathed heavily, holding his side, grunting. Rachel ran to Benjamin and picked him up. He was in severe pain. As she began to lift him off the ground, he screamed, "Benjamin, I can't lift you up! You need to help me!" She begged as more walkers were coming down the road towards them. He slowly pulled himself up, grunting, and walked with her. "We're gonna be okay," she said as she opened the door, laying Benjamin inside the passenger seat. He dropped into the seat hard as she quickly closes the door. She runs to the driver's side and pushes another walker away from her. She quickly opens the door and gets inside and puts the key in the ignition and drives away as Benjamin held onto his battered body. He grunted in pain. Despite the shot out tire from earlier on the passenger side, the car still is able to move and is able to get away from them. As Rachel was driving, she wiped tears and blood from her face and then looked at Benjamin after driving for several minutes. Benjamin continued to hold his side, looking at Rachel as he saw her seriously bruised neck. "Rachel, are you okay? Your neck," he whispered before Benjamin passes out. She stopped the car and parked it. "Ben? Ben?" she says softly, shaking him. Rachel looked and saw blood on the car seat. Fresh blood. His car seat. She looked at his chest and touched it. She felt warm blood. "Why is it warm?" She looked closer and saw blood dripping from his vest. There were holes right through his body armor. Rachel applies pressure to Benjamin's wound. "Ben! Ben! Hey! Hey! Stay with me! Ben, please! Please don't die! I can't do this without you! I love you!" She cries. Suddenly, the walker slams its face onto the glass on her side of the car. She takes her knife, and then she notices dozens of walkers surrounding the car. She tried to start the car and go through, but the walkers were blocking the way and damaging the car. As she was slowly trying to push through the walkers, they began to surround the car. She tried flooring it, slamming the acceleration, but nothing worked. The walkers surrounded the windshield, covering the glass completely. Back at the university, Sean was by himself looking at some of the food supplies that they found earlier when Tyler came up to him. "What are you doing?" Tyler asked. As Sean begins to look at them, "Hey, do you see this?" he asked Tyler. Tyler looks at the can of peaches Sean is holding. Have you ever seen this symbol before?" he asked Tyler. Tyler looks at the weird symbol intently with his flashlight. He hands the can of food back to Sean. "No, I'm sorry." At the extremely weird symbol. "I don't know. I feel like it means something," Sean says. "You're just overthinking it, man. Benjamin, Rachel, and the others will be here soon, and then we'll be able to go back home," Kyler says, patting Sean on the back, making Sean unsure. "I hope so," Sean says, back nervous. "Well, I gotta go, man. Rebecca asked me to train her." Tyler says, walking away. Good luck, Sean says back. As Sean watches him leave, he turns back to the can of food to look at the weird symbol again. On the side of the can, getting a feeling of nervousness, he looked at the 3 circles as they all intertwined with one another, forming a single individual symbol. It was some sort of 3-ring circle.